Here are my tips on how to pass the bar exam part 2. Now let's get right into it. The first tip on passing the bar exam is to study in 3-hour increments. You want to study just like how you would take the bar exam. So for example, you want to be studying from probably 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then again from 2 to 5 o'clock. And then I would do my last and final shift around 6 to 9 p.m. So we do 3-hour shifts. You want to be studying during the times when the bar exam is actually administered. Moving on to my next tip on how to pass the bar exam is doing the hardest part of your studying at the very beginning of the day. The reason why you want to do this is because that's when you have the most peak energy. You don't want to save the hardest part of your day at the end of the day when you have no more gas in the tank. So for example, what I would do is if I was doing poorly on multiple choice, I would always make sure right when I wake up and I have the most juice and the most brain power, you want to reserve your most peak energy to do the hardest part of your studying. And then later in the day, let's say when you get to hours, 7, 8, or 9 of studying, that's when you can do more of your passive studying. So if you want to listen to video lectures, which I highly don't recommend, that's when you can reserve that time for. When you're about to fall asleep, or maybe while you're showering, play those video lectures in the background. The next tip is to practice your multiple choice and your essays under timed-like conditions. So here, make sure that you're actually timing yourself, that once you start an essay, that you're going to complete it within 1 hour. You don't have to have it perfect, but at least you know what that 1 hour feels like. Additionally, if you're going to be practicing your multiple choice, I would try to practice doing 100 multiple choice within 3 hours. Just like if you're an athlete, you need to practice like you would in a game. Which leads me straight into my next point, which is take as many mock bar exams as you can, or mock exams. For me, what I would do towards the later half of my bar prep cycle is that I would reserve the last 3 weekends leading into the bar exam to do mock exams. Now, what these mock exams look like is that I would mirror the mornings to be from 9 to 12, I would be doing 100 MBEs, and then the afternoon, I would do 2 essays and then 1 performance test. So that would be 3.5 hours. My next tip is to find the right memorizing tools that work for you. Every individual is different, so some people have different learning styles and how they want to memorize. I remember that flashcards weren't super helpful for me, but I did use Quizlet to do some rule statements and to do some rule memorizing. I would do a whole essay schema on contracts and memorize my rule statements that way. So if it was an offer, acceptance, consideration, whatever it was, I knew that I can chunk my memory with the issue and the rule analysis. Now, my next tip is pretty much a no-brainer, but sometimes it's hard for first-time bar exam takers to really understand what this tip really means. And that is, don't burn out. The bar exam is a marathon and not a sprint. You do not want to be studying 12-hour days consistently 7 days a week for 8 weeks in a row. That sounds horrible. That's not even a normal way that someone should be studying. Study at the right appropriate times, like I said, 3-hour shifts a day, and then take a break once a week. It's a must. Now, my next tip on passing the bar exam is more geared towards you law students out there. If you're watching this and you're still a law student, don't study like you're studying for a law school exam. This is not law school. This is the bar exam. The bar exam means it has its own rules. It has its own sets of questions. No one cares about what you learned in law school or what your professor likes. You need to learn how to pass the game of the bar exam. Now, my next tip on how to pass the bar exam is don't try to learn everything that you can about the law. It's literally impossible. You're not going to be the first person to do it. So just don't do it. It's a complete waste of your time. Pretty plain and simple here. You can't learn everything. As a pro tip, all you need to know is what's actually being tested. So study the essays, study the performance tests, and take a bunch of multiple choice questions, and you are Gucci. Don't forget to practice. Moving on to my next tip, which is study in a quiet environment. For me, I knew I couldn't handle studying in a coffee shop or studying even at school. You need to find a place that's really quiet where no one will distract you and your mind can be as focused and as sharp as you can. I wouldn't pick a coffee shop or even a law school library, because sometimes when you run into your friends, they're gonna want to talk to you after, even if you just study for like 30 minutes and then all of a sudden they have a bunch of questions to ask you. That can throw you off your study rhythm. So you kind of want to set yourself up for success here. Try to pick an environment that mimics the actual bar exam environment. That is probably the best way for you to just get in your zone and know that once you actually get to test day, it's going to be the same exact thing. There will be a lot of people there, but at least you can just tune them all out and you're zoned in. My last and final tip on how to pass the bar exam, which might sound like the most ridiculous tip, but I think is actually a really good tip, is to learn to sit your butt down for 3-hour increments. The bar is given in those 3-hour increments. Training your mind, you're training your body like you're mimicking the bar exam environment. Thanks for tuning into this video, and if you value this kind of content, then please feel free to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell.